Hello everyone. It's James. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about standards and boundaries men should have out in the dating world. And when considering a woman to be his partner, first off, you have to be out there in life in order for such relationships to take place. Don't be scared of your own shadow nor be shut in. Oftentimes, men that get hurt by a woman lose all touch with their masculinity and start to live in a world where they believe there is no hope, when the reality is there is plenty of hope. And you have to know and trust your instincts as a man will serve you well. And when you are spending time with a woman that is crossing your boundaries, or isn't meeting up to the realistic life standards you have set, do yourself a favor and walk away. Here's the thing to remember. 60 years ago or so, women sought out a man that is what I like to call a brawny gentleman that was a good supporter, and in return for this man providing a home, support, and protection for his wife and family, he was greeted with hot meals, washed and cleaned clothes, a warm kiss, love-making at night, and his children tended to. So in this instance men saw nothing wrong with marrying such a woman. And this led men to obtain such attributes as a man in hopes he would catch the eye of a desirable woman that would make his home happy and his work worthwhile. Fast forward to today, and feminism has now taken hold. And because of feminism, women are told to seek out the same things they once found in a man, such as good financial supporter, and someone that can do the heavy lifting, but to not give him in return the proper raising of their children. Because you can just stick them in a daycare with strangers, refusal to cook meals for your family let alone your husband, do not clean, nor wash clothes for anyone but herself. And if she can train him to wash her clothes for her, control his money, and put him on an allowance, and all of this leaves men thinking, what's the point? They are asking me to do my job and her job in the home, while she sits and takes my hard-earned money and spends it on purses. And my kids will be raised by a daycare because she wants to get out of the house. Here is the problem, is that men have let all of this happen without refusal. Because there are a lot of men out there that don't want to lose their access to women, so they will do every little unfair thing they are told, not realizing if they turn into the strong masculine male they once were, they might have to turn away this woman and that woman. But eventually there will be a woman that will be on board with the old traditional way of living. Now when I say old traditional way of living, please don't pigeonhole me into the belief that women can only do certain things and men can only do certain things. Because I don't believe that. If a woman is smart enough and good enough to be a scientist to cure diseases, I say good for her. Go for it. And we need more smart people like you in the world. But realize this. It would be incredibly selfish of you to have a family and child in the middle of you having such a demanding profession. And if you want to have a family, make sure you figure out the timeline in which you can scale back your work and make family home time the center of your focus. Because your child and husband deserve it. Because having a family isn't about adding something to your bucket list. It's about selflessly giving, doing, and being, in order to bring up another generation in all that is good and decent. And you can't do that if you aren't around nor there. And believe it or not, there are many women that have basic low-paying jobs just like us men out there. Because let's face it, times are hard. And these women spend most of their check on daycare and gas. And the reason for them going to work is to get out of the house, not for earning a living. To me that isn't a mother. And that's someone you don't want to have a family with. At all. Point blank. So what are good boundaries for men to have when out there dating and possibly finding a life partner? Don't date a woman that takes back her good deeds. Oftentimes a woman in today's society will give off a false sense of being a good homemaker, as they will cook you great meals, and maybe clean around your house. And you will be thinking, wow, this is great. And this will bring out the man in you, wanting to check your girlfriend's oil in her car to make sure it's at the proper levels. You might help her with the heavy lifting and all other tasks you deem as masculine and manly in nature. And then on month 6 she starts to yell and scream at you because she is always cooking for you when all you do, she claims, is sit on your butt and do nothing. Now you are just shocked by all of this. You were stunned. Because you thought everything was going great. And you were not sitting on your backside. You were doing all kinds of manly tasks for her. So you were confused as to why she is fighting with you. Well, let me tell you, my friend. This woman had no intention on doing any sort of housemaking or cooking for you or her family. However, she used the 6 months of what I like to call fake homemaking in order to sway you into the relationship. And oftentimes women like this will realize after they have you a while and have time built up, they can switch the game on you and get you to stay. Do yourself a favor, my friend, and leave as fast as you can. Because this woman is going to make a terrible wife and an even worse mother. This is what I mean by having standards. And remember, 6 months of cooking you food doesn't make a good future wife. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice feeling. But what you want to see is if she is still doing these nice and attentive things after the honeymoon phase is gone. And you are deep in the relationship. Because if she is still doing these things year after year and is happy to do them without complaint, you can bet this is part of her normal character. Not just a fake act she is using to con you into a relationship with. The problem is because men have been taught to not have standards or boundaries, they are easily conned by the worst kind of women. So the first kind of standard you're looking for is, does she consistently make being around her a pleasure, and is she doing things on a long-term basis that would show herself to one day be a good wife and mother to your kids. The second standard is, meet a woman that brings something positive to the table. Such as she has a good education, lives on her own, and has her own home. Meeting and dating an adult woman in today's society, it's hard for a man to not get taken to the cleaners financially. And the best way to avoid that is date a woman that brings her own finances to the table as a positive. And this woman also has to have a life plan. A plan to be able to at some point slow down or change her profession in order to focus on her family when that day comes. There are many things smart women can do to earn great money while they are raising a family if they so choose. Such as home-based businesses. There are women that have made 6-figure incomes with such ideas and good planning. The thing I want to impress upon you is, stop dating a woman because she's a woman. And make sure she brings something positive to the table. Because you as a man always have to bring something positive to the table. Start holding these women to the same standards. You see, if a woman states she wants a man that is a good supporter, and that can fix her car, and that can do this and that, it's seen as normal. But when a man says he wants a woman that is a good homemaker and that can raise his children, it's somehow labeled as sexist. And you want to know who started that one? Bingo. You win the prize. The feminists started it, and it was started for the reason what I like to call shaming, blaming, and name-calling you into submission. Because they knew that if they got the women and turned them into dominant, pushy, demanding, take creatures, and if they name-called the men, that eventually men would stop asking for what they want, which is a good homemaker and someone to raise their children. That women would run wild and destroy every man they met because they wouldn't have direction on how a relationship is supposed to go. Because they will be taking relationship advice from women that hate the family unit as a whole. And the only way to get the balance back is to endure some of the name-calling by the feminists that want to try to bash your standards. But regardless, you need to start requiring certain things from the women you date. And requiring women to raise the level of how they carry themselves as people. You know, in the Bible it tells us men that we are to be women's teachers. And what's funny is there are many Christian women that don't know this fact, and brutalize and dominate and ruin their families as a result. And just because we are to be their teachers doesn't mean they can't be a scientist that cures a major disease. Because trust me, there are some smart ladies out there, but this does mean you need to start holding women accountable, and refuse to date and marry women that don't possess the standards you require. And the word here is require. For a mate to settle down with. And if they show you otherwise, walk out just like you walked in. Getting to know someone can take time. But the best boundary you can have is to not let someone use the fact you have been with them a long time to mistreat you. If they're doing such a thing, they are proving they aren't going to be a good wife and life partner. Like I always say, knowledge is power. The more we know, the more we can better our lives, and find better life partners in which we can enjoy our life with. Until next time, bye for now, and be good to yourself.